On today's show, we are joined by three thrivers who are having massive success. Steve Currington is the founder of stevecurrington.com and a mortgage banker. And he's been a client of mine for just over 5 years. And during that time, he's grown his company from 0 mortgages per year to last year he did $251 million of mortgages. And we're joined with Dr. Breck, the chiropractor and the founder of drbreck.com, who's doubled his company in just the past 2 years. And on today's show, we are joined by Nathan, the founder of Complete Carpet, who's been able to almost triple the size of his company in just the past 2.5 years. If you feel stuck in a rut and you don't know what to do to grow your company, this is the show for you. As we are joined with three thrivers who share with you their firsthand experience about what it's like to be coached down the proven path of success that I have individually and specifically created just for them.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes, Thrive Nation, you are in for a super laser show of a podcast today. We are having a very special occasion because we are joined here today with 3 super successful entrepreneurs, 3 people just like you who decided to not just talk about success, but to actually achieve success. Steve Currington, good morning to you, sir.
What's happening?
Are you doing well here at 6:11 in the morning?
It's amazing.
Beautiful. You had something happen to your vehicle on the way here. What happened? Tell us the story of what happened while driving your SUV here to the Thrive Time Show.
So I'm driving my wife's car. She has one of those big Lexuses. And I was telling Clay when I came in, I don't know what happened. I opened the console, closed it back, and it's dark because it's 6 in the morning. But
right,
something went flying through the car. It was you could tell a piece of the car broke off. And I found it in the dash. And it's the most ridiculous thing. It's the top of 2 of the buttons that change you to sport mode or
what is sport mode?
I don't know. It's makes the car drive more aggressively or whatever. But the tops of both of these buttons
Real quick,
flew into the
This
dash.
just in. When you switch to sport mode, you can drive your Lexus more aggressively?
Yeah, exactly.
This just in. Okay, I want
the
to
move.
get that. I know a lot of people right now are taking notes.
Yeah, so it's in the dash. So I'm sitting in your driveway with my flashlight on in the car.
Yeah, I noticed. I
trying
was
to
waiting
find-
for you, and I'm like, what's going on out there?
I'm trying to find the pieces. I found them, though.
Okay.
So I feel like I'm kind of
and you
a
know what?
mechanic.
You had to push through adversity to be here today. You had to find
I almost
some-
went home.
Yeah,
Almost just turned around and went home.
you had to search for a random part in your wife's Lexus SUV. You had to see because your vehicle has searched or switched without your permission into sport mode. That's the kind of adversity you're fighting through here this morning. Steve, how did you do it?
It was really tough.
Okay, now Dr. Breck, Dr. Breck, you've been a chiropractor for how long now?
Going on 16 years.
So drbreck.com, check him out, drbreck.com. Again, how many years?
16.
16 years. And Steve, how long have you been a mortgage guy?
About 15 years. Right at
15 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we have Nathan here with us. Nathan, how long have you been the Carpet King?
This is our 22nd year this month.
And explain to the listeners out there what you do as the Carpet King.
As a Carpet King, we do pretty much everything after your carpet's been installed. So after it's been there, we help you to maintain your carpet so you don't have to replace it again.
And what's the website so listeners can check out your company?
Absolutely. It is CompleteCarpetTulsa.com.
CompleteCarpetTulsa.com. Now, on today's show, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the linear path and the proven process that you 3 guys have gone through en route to building success. And as we go through each point, I would like for you to share with our listeners where you had some pushback, where you thought maybe this was crazy. Maybe you didn't have any pushback. Maybe you thought it made sense. Maybe you didn't, but I want to go through each specific part of the proven process because Steve, you ever hear those stories about somebody where they invented something and through just randomness and serendipity, all of a sudden they became successful? Have you ever heard these kinds of stories?
Yeah.
I hate those stories.
I know it happens not all the time.
I can't stand the stories where some guy says, I came up with this invention for this, and then I sold this for $1 million, and all of a sudden now I'm rich. Because it's so rare. What I like is the stories about. I like the stories about. I have been cleaning carpets for how many years again now?
For 22 years.
22 years. I was kind of stuck. I learned the proven systems. Now I'm not stuck. I've been doing mortgages for how long, Steve?
15 years.
15 years. I once was stuck. Now I'm not stuck. Dr. Breck, I've been a chiropractor for how many years?
16 years.
16 years. I once was stuck. Now I'm not. That's the stories I like. I do not like stories where it's just random serendipity. And Steve, do you want to speculate as to why I don't like random stories of serendipity?
Well, they don't. I'm not going to say that if you invent something and sell it, and it doesn't, you didn't work hard to do that. It's just that doesn't work for most people.
Right.
But people think that it will work for them.
So today's show is about how to build a better mousetrap. That's what we're talking about today. How to build a better mousetrap. Steve, are you the first person in the history of America and other countries to come up with this concept called mortgages?
I actually invented it.
Awesome.
No. No, I wish I invented it. Hey, they've reinvented it since I got in the business. It's changed quite a bit.
Please explain at the end of the day what you do as a mortgage banker.
So when you want to buy a house, most people don't have the $300,000 or $400,000, for example, to pay cash for a house, or maybe they do and they don't want to pay cash. So I provide the financing so you can buy that dream home.
And do you have all of that money in a bank somewhere, or how does it work on a nuts and bolts technical level? If I'm looking to get a mortgage, how does that work?
How does it work? How do I fund it, or how do you get it?
I think there's somebody out there who wants to know how in the heck does it work as a mortgage guy? How does that work?
Think of I have a credit card with a $20 million limit, and I fund loans from that line. And after I fund them, I sell them to people who are real good at collecting payments, and then I pay myself back plus what I made on the loan.
You sell a mortgage, and so if I want to buy a house for $300,000, you get that money from somebody.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I sign the mortgage, as soon as I sign the paperwork, you then sell the paperwork again to somebody else?
Yeah.
And they bundle all those together into a thing called, do you call it a tranche or a tranche?
I don't call it either. We sell loans on an individual basis, so we're not trenching them or tranching them up.
Oh, really? Now that right there, folks, that is dirty.
Thank you.
All right.
I feel dirty.
You know what Steve actually will do for a small extra fee? He will put your mortgage into sport mode and pull both the buttons off.
True.
This just in, for an extra fee, he'll switch your vehicle into sport mode.
Hey, that's the 21-day closing guarantee right there. That's sport mode. You lose all your buttons though.
Now, Dr. Breck, I want to ask you this: are you the first person to ever do chiropractic care? Did you invent the concept of chiropractic care?
Unfortunately, no. No, I'm not the first. It's been around for, about 115 years.
So as we're talking about building a better mousetrap, you did not invent chiropractic care.
I didn't.
Steve did not invent mortgages. Nathan, did you invent carpet cleaning?
Oh, no. Nope.
Okay, but there's somebody out there who's listening to this show, and if that is you, I want you to find another show. So if you're listening to this show because you are looking to invent something and to be the first one ever to do it, this is not the show for you.
So you would say this is not a show for a one-hit wonder?
Yeah, I just, when you meet somebody like this at a conference, Steve, why is it awkward when you meet somebody who has never been self-employed, they don't want to build a better mousetrap, they're trying to invent the mousetrap? Why is that awkward to even sit next to them as a business owner? You know what I'm talking about? When you meet these people.
It's just because you know that they're crazy.
It's not going to work.
No, yeah, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But if you tell them it's not going to work, then they're going to hate you. So you just have to smile and say, "Oh yeah, that's amazing. You should totally invest your entire $20,000 in your life savings to build something that would probably cost you $20 million to build. But hey, you'll figure it out here when you lose everything." So
If you want to learn how to plow down the proven path, this is the show for you. But if you're somebody who wants to invent something, I'm not the guy for you. You wouldn't like me. I think this year we have one client we're working with who invented something, the grill gun.
Yep.
Bob.
Pretty hot.
But Bob had a prototype that he invented, and we helped him raise money on Kickstarter. To date, he's raised about $600,000 on Kickstarter.
And if Bob will make a grill gun with carbon fiber, okay, and gold, like it doesn't have to be real gold, Clay.
Right.
But some carbon fiber accents, maybe like some green. I'll never actually light the grill gun, but I'll put it in my house and I'll spend 3 times what he charges. But he just hasn't made a carbon fiber one yet.
So let's do this. So let's do this here. One, Bob, if you're listening, make a carbon fiber one that's a green. Steve will buy that.
I'll pay
but we're going to
triple.
walk you through the proven path. So on page 4 of the boom book, if you have one, you can open it up to page 4. You can follow along with us. If you don't have a boom book, just visualize page 4 of the boom book and go to thrivetimeshow.com/free-resources, and you can download the boom book there. But let's talk about it. Goals. You have to figure out how many customers you need to achieve your goal. Step 1, you've got to figure out how many customers you need to achieve your goals. Dr. Breck, let's talk about this for a second. When you see a patient, do you see all of your repeat patients for free, or do you charge them something?
No, we do charge them after their initial visit.
And I'm not asking you to tell us the specific number in your mind, but do you know how many patients that you need to see on a daily basis to break even?
Yes.
And you set a record on, I think it was last Monday, was it, or two Mondays ago?
Mm-hmm.
What was the record?
We saw 90 patients in a single day, and our previous record had been 74.
Why is it important that you know those numbers? Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that do not know how many customers they're seeing per day, nor do they track. Why is it important for you to know that number?
Well, I think for a lot of reasons. One, the numbers don't lie, and so you can see trends. You can see the direction that things are going.
Yep.
And then you also have to keep the score. I mean, the score is important for me as the owner, but it's also important for the rest of my team to know how they're doing in their own job. So each segment of our office has its own scorekeeping and tracking, and that way we know where we stand and we know if we're moving forward or if we're behind, just like watching sports. You know if your team's ahead or behind. And you know what you got to do in the time necessary to achieve your goals. And so, we have goals, and those goals help to move us forward. And knowing the score helps us to know where we stand in relationship to those goals. And so, we have daily goals, we have weekly goals, monthly goals, quarterly and annual goals as well. And that's for every different job position within my practice.
Now, Steve, we talked about this on a show that we recorded probably a week ago, but we were talking about how Total Lending Concepts, the company that you work with, 5 years ago, you guys were a startup, and you guys just passed $250 million of loans closed this year. Am I correct, or am I making that up?
Correct.
Is that amazing, or is that sport mode to you? Are you excited about that? Is that a sport mode kind of thing, or is that something you're not excited about?
Yeah, it's a good start.
It's a good start.
It's a good start. I mean, we're still not even like on the map in relation to other mortgage companies. As far as, we're not in the top 10 or anything. We're not. You know what I mean? We're making some money, but we're not killing it.
But you know that in Tulsa, you did how many millions of dollars of loans last year?
About 20 million.
20 million, and you make roughly 1.5% on every deal, right?
Yep.
Why is it important that you make 1.5% of every deal and that you did $20 million last year of revenue, of mortgages?
Because I want to make sure I'm getting paid properly. I don't know. Some companies, they don't really do payroll like they're supposed to. So you got to know what you're supposed to be making so that when you get your paycheck, you can check it and go back and say, hey, you shorted me on this loan, or this says get paid. But furthermore, I've got financial goals, just like Dr. Breck was saying, and we've got numbers we're trying to hit. And if you don't know what you're supposed to be making, then you're just shooting at nothing.
Let's go back to the guy who doesn't want to go down the proven path, the guy who wants to invent the mousetrap. Why don't those people ever know their numbers, and why do they always say, Steve, I'm not in it for the money? Why do they every single time you talk to them and you say, so are you selling anything at all? And again, Breck, you've met this person.
Well, this is one of my favorite parts of like the show Shark Tank.
Right.
You know, when somebody comes in with this fancy new, never before seen item and like, well, what were your sales? Well, we haven't gotten to that point yet.
I want to talk about the numbers.
We do have a prototype.
Right.
We don't have we have 0 sales.
Like last night, okay, Steve, you were over here. You saw it happen.
Yeah.
The Patriots were playing against the Tennessee Titans.
Yep.
And we lost the game 20-13. 20-13.
Really 14-13.
Yeah. And the thing about this is that it's tough. It's a loss. We move on. And now I have to cheer for the Saints because Drew Brees, in my opinion, is one of the nicest humans on the planet. So I have to switch my allegiance for the remainder of the playoffs. But there are some people that watch the game and they say they're big Patriots fans, let's say, and their team loses 20-13. And you go, so what was the score? And you go, I don't really keep score. For me, it's just about having a good time.
Is that really important?
We're going to be at the next game, though. I mean, get out of here. You have to track. And, Steve, again, why don't people who are entrepreneurs want to track? Why do entrepreneurs track their numbers, and why do entrepreneurs not track?
Because they don't want to be found out. They don't want to get their fakeness figured out whenever they want to. They'd rather just live in that darkness of, because their wife's probably wondering this and their family's probably wondering this. Like, are you making any money? And they're like, oh, we're working on it.
Talk about it.
Yeah, they don't. They don't want to talk about it because they're focusing on the things that don't matter. And if you try to tell them to focus on the things that do matter, then you're going to piss them off.
Okay, so let's talk about this. How many realtors have reached out to you in the past for help? Because you're a mortgage guy, and they see you driving a Lamborghini. They see you having big success. How many of people have reached out to you, realtors have reached out to you for help, and then they don't want to talk about their numbers? They do not want to talk about their action steps. They don't want to talk about the numbers. They want to talk about how they feel. They want to talk about their big vision. They want to talk about how they want to change the game of real estate forever. They want to talk about their real estate app that they're developing. They want to talk about their logo and their branding and their marketing, but they don't want to talk about the numbers. Steve, as a percentage of all the realtors who've reached out to you, how many realtors do you think have reached out to you? And then as a percentage, what percentage of them have not wanted to talk about things that matter?
All of them.
How many have reached out to you?
I mean, like, countless. And all of them. There's 4,000 realtors in Tulsa, Clay. 10% of them do it for a living. So, there's a lot of
Seriously, you've had probably 100 realtors.
Yeah, a lot of, like I quit counting. Like I can't. There's a graveyard out there behind my office.
And what do they want? And what do they want?
Bodies.
And what do they want to talk about? If they don't want to talk about their numbers, the number one thing, step one down the proven path, is know your numbers. Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets, says step one, know your numbers. What do they want to talk about?
New ideas. I have a new idea. I have this new idea.
I got a new idea.
I have this new idea.
What kind of new ideas? Take us down that.
It's an idea festival.
Take us to Crazy Town. What kind of ideas have you heard?
No, let's think of some stupid
headshots. There
for
we
what?
go.
What's
If I
the new
just
idea?
had a better logo,
There it is.
I could sell more. If I had better I was like, you mean that 1985 picture of you that's on your business cards? You want to change that?
When you had a full head of hair?
Yeah, are you sure about that? No, everything that doesn't matter. Like if I say, well, why don't you make more calls? They're like,
But I'm working on the font on my logo.
yeah, but if I can't really make more calls because I'm busy.
They don't want to talk about how many times they've actually sold something. Oh, look at that. This is my new sound effect here.
Nice.
This was given to me by Clint Howard with Tulsa Fitness Systems. This is my newest sound effect. You got to do it just right.
Cha-ching.
It's like, I'm not sure what the sound is before the cha-ching, though. Listen. It's like, root. It's like a dog bark, and then it's a ching.
It's like winding up.
It's like the cartoons where he swallows a whole machine.
Exactly.
That's the old school drawer.
But they don't want to talk about how many times this happens because it never happens.
Was that the ringer on your bike as a kid?
Yeah.
Let me tell you this sincerely, though. I've worked with so many realtors, and I don't understand it. I sit down with them, and in our first meeting, I say, we have got to go over how many deals do you need to achieve, how many deals do you need to close to achieve your goals? How many deals do you need to close? And they don't want to talk about it. And it gets weird. And I said, listen, my job as a business coach is to help you grow. Okay, and I have to know the numbers. We have to go over this. Now, once you know how much profit you make per job, as a carpet guy, do you make about a 20% margin? Is it a 30% margin? What's kind of the margin-ish?
Yes, we shoot for about 20 to 30%.
All right, so when I started DJConnection.com, we made approximately $167 per event. Why 167? I don't know. There was like a whole bunch of variables, and the average event was about $600, and we would somehow make about $167 per show. All right, so if it was $200, we'd be making about a 33% profit margin, but for some reason we couldn't, we didn't, whatever. But I knew that. So when we would go out there and do 80 events on a weekend, Steve, 80 times one. Steve, you're a mortgage guy. You're a math guy. If I take 80 times 167, that's a 13,360. Now, Steve, talk to me about this. Do I have to pay taxes when I make a profit as an owner?
You should.
Oh, come on now. Come on.
I mean, it's a good idea.
As a pro business tip, don't pay the taxes and see what happens.
So I earned a $13,360 a week at the peak. But I had to pay taxes. Steve, how many times have you sat down with somebody who wants to get a mortgage for to buy a house, and they're self-employed, and they haven't been paying those taxes?
Yesterday, that happened twice.
It happens.
Twice.
No, seriously.
No, for real.
And they say, I make $13,360 a week, and you go, are you paying taxes on that? And they go, well, I filed an extension. You say, I haven't filed my taxes for last
It's always
year.
exactly the same thing. It's like, hey, I need to get those.
Let me get those.
Let me get those.
Let me
for
get
you.
those for you.
And then later there'll be a text. I have this text.
You have the text?
Listen.
Okay.
This is exactly what
I want you to read the. I want you to.
This is what all of them do. I haven't even read this because I knew. The hubby and I were just chatting. Based on the model we decided on, they're looking at a new house. You know.
Yeah.
We won't be comfortable paying for the house, and we have to before we pay off our truck. So we're going to go through 2020 and tackle that, pay it down, save some more money, and then we can afford our dream home comfortably. I want to thank you for your time. We look forward to building our dream home. Now, the real truth is that her husband works in the construction business.
Therefore.
And he's self-employed.
So he doesn't pay taxes.
She said, can you get me the list of stuff that you need? And I said, taxes for 17, 18. Because 19 hasn't been filed yet. And then I need W-2s, whatever. And the answer is, we're going to hold off because we have to save money. But really what she's saying is, yeah, well, we haven't filed our taxes, or I have a huge loss, or whatever, because every time. Another guy, every Friday is bringing me his taxes. Every Friday. Every Friday. He's bringing me his taxes this Friday. But that's been going on since October. You know what I mean? Because he can't, just say, hey, I've been really irresponsible, and I actually haven't filed my taxes for the last 3 years, and I think I owe the IRS a bunch of money. So now that I know I'm going to have to file those taxes in order to qualify, I'm really hurriedly going to find a CPA because I don't actually have a CPA because I don't file my taxes.
And I want to find a CPA quickly who will help me validate my lie.
Yeah.
So that I can get a house.
Correcto.
That's what they want to do.
But I'm probably not going to qualify for the same amount of house because now I owe the IRS $300,000.
And because my wife is unaware that I don't pay my taxes, I can't bring myself to tell her that. So I'm going to complain to her about the lack of responsiveness of the mortgage guy and say the reason why I can't get approved is because the mortgage guy won't call me back.
So you're not advocating the Wesley
2 weeks
Snipes?
ago, I have a guy that wrote me an apology letter. He dropped his actual tax returns off through my door with an apology letter, about a page-long apology letter about how he's so sorry that he fabricated the first tax returns that he gave me.
This happens almost every time.
Because he thought that I didn't have a way to verify that the taxes he gave me aren't the same ones he filed with the IRS. And I don't care. I'm not Mr. Judgy over here. I'm just trying to tell you, here's what I need in order to get you approved.
So
but
step one, though, you've got to know your numbers. You have to determine the number of deals you need to break even and the number of deals you need to achieve your goals. Now, after you've done that, step two, this is going to irritate somebody, Dr. Breck. This is going to bother somebody who wants to be a wantrepreneur. They're not going to like this. No, they're not, but I'm going to give it to you.
All right.
You've got to figure out the number of hours you're willing to work and when you're willing to work those hours. Dr. Breck, why do you have to figure out how many hours a week you're going to work and when you're going to work those hours?
Absolutely, because I personally could work far more hours and I could make more money. And if that were my goal, then, I can work myself into an early grave. Patients want to come in at all kinds of odd hours, and I try to be very available, but I'm not entirely available at all hours. And so, there are times when people want me to adjust them on a Sunday. and I don't see patients on Sundays. There are people who would love that I had office hours on Saturdays, and I don't. And so I had a mentor early on that just said to me, when it relates to chiropractic, the patients will come when you're open. They'll find a way. If they want to, get on treatment, they understand the value and they want to feel well, then they'll find a way to come when you're open. If that's Monday through Thursday, if that's, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you name it, you set your hours. If they see it as a value, they're going to find a way to get in when you're open.
And I'm not going to argue with you, but I do want to point this out for the listeners out there.
Mm-hmm.
You are very good at what you do.
I try
and
to be.
you,
Thank you.
Already work hard by default. So you've had to
I
set a
work
boundary.
very hard for the time that I'm there, but I do set a boundary so that I can protect that time for my family.
But you've had to set. But you personally
Mm-hmm.
have had to dial it back, let's say, and set a boundary because by default you work very hard.
Yes.
But most people, not you, most people, they don't need to dial it back. They need to dial it up. These people are out there praying for success and praying for blessings and being unwilling to work at least 40 hours a week.
Well, if you have a regular TV show that you watch, you're not working hard enough.
Okay, let me hit play on this. TD Jakes.
Snap.
TD Jakes could not be here today, but I want to cue up this audio clip here of what TD Jakes has to say about contrasting exceptional people to ordinary people. Let me cue this up. And by the way, if you're listening today and you've chosen to be ordinary, you can choose to be exceptional. But let me hit play here.
So Jesus, who is exceptional, is having a conversation with ordinary. And exceptional and ordinary always have a conflict. Anytime exceptional people dwell in the midst of ordinary thinking people, there's always going to be conflict.
Okay, so let's talk about this, Steve. Somebody out there says, I want to invent the mousetrap, and I kind of want to work like 10 hours a week, Why? It seems like the kind of person that wants to invent something to get rich overnight is also the person who wants to work 10 hours a week. Can you please explain the level of diligence you've had to put into building a mortgage company from zero revenue to $251 million of revenue? Please explain about the number of podcasts that you've had to record to get to the top of the Google search results. Please explain about the number of reviews you've had to get. Please explain about the Dream 100 marketing. Please explain about the level of diligence you've had to put into growing your company.
Most mortgage guys get up at 9. I get up at 4.
In the morning?
Yep. Because by the time most mortgage companies start, we've already, it's lunchtime. We're ahead of. So in those mornings, we have done things like record a podcast, and so that we could use the content to get top in Google. We definitely got to 263 reviews on our Google listing, and then Google took them all away. And now we're back to 610.
And the reason why they were taken away, just so we get it, is if somebody goes out there and claims fraud on an account, it sucks. But Google occasionally will remove your reviews. And that's happened to me with Elephant in the Room. I lost over, I think John said 1,600 reviews.
Overnight.
For our downtown location.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This can happen. I mean, Google giveth and Google taketh away. But I think there's somebody out there and right now that needs to write down, step 2, how many hours per week are you willing to work? And let me cue up this audio. This is what TD Jakes has to say for somebody who's listening today who's praying for money.
About money. Our mentality is we need a miracle. I'm believing God for a car. I'm believing God for a house. I'm believing God for a coat. I'm believing God for a house. I'm believing God to send my kids to private school. I hate to tell you this. There are atheists that send their kids to private school. There are drug dealers that have a car. That's not a miracle. You don't need God. You need a good job. You need to come to work. You need to save your money. You can get you a car. You don't need to call on heaven and provoke the angels to get a car. That magical mentality is killing the church. We are asking God for stuff that we can do ourselves. Oh, God, help me.
Steve, we live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. How often have you met somebody who's a little weasel? They're not being successful. They're not doing their job. They're not getting to the top of Google because they're not. To get to the top of Google, there are only 4 variables that impact your rank. 1, it's having the most canonically compliant website. 2, it's having the most mobile compliance. 3, it's having the most original HTML text content, the most original relevant content. And 4, the most reviews. And when you tell somebody the proven path, they get upset because they don't want to put in the work. And then they say, and Steve, tell me if I'm making this up. Then they say, well, I was just praying and Jesus has told me that this is my year of abundance. This is my year of abundance. And you're like, why are you talking like that, Carl? This is my year of abundance. Breck, you've seen this.
Well, especially with 2020. Everybody's got this new vision, 2020.
Oh, come on.
But also, to go back to what you're saying is, especially coming off the heels of T.D. Jakes, the Bible is very clear about the law of sowing and reaping. And so if you're not out sowing seed and you're not doing things, then you can't expect a harvest. I mean, that
it's all
goes,
about sowing
agrarian
and reaping.
or,
this is huge.
Whether you're in the Industrial Revolution or,
Yes.
or prior to, and you're actually physically sowing and reaping in a field, if you don't put seed in the ground, there's not going to be a harvest.
T.D. Jakes, watch the entire sermon. It's called It's Not for Sale. Bishop T.D. Jakes, this one came out on December 29th, 2019. Go to YouTube and type It's Not for Sale, Bishop T.D. Jakes. Watch the show. Steve, how often have you heard somebody who's being a weasel, who's not getting their work done, who's not taking action, and they say, well, Steve, Jesus has just told me that I shouldn't have to strive for success. My success is all downhill this year. You hear people that say they don't want to work too hard. Mm-hmm. They don't want to force their success. How often have you heard this kind of jackassery?
Unfortunately, it's like all the time. I mean, you hear
Right.
it every day, especially if you have some success, because people will approach you and ask you, whether it's through Facebook Messenger or Instagram or text, or they see you at the grocery store and they want to hey, can I just get 5 minutes of your time? I want to talk to you about, and then it's just the same. It's literally like, it's a different face, but it's like the same person. And they're like, they don't want to do the work. That's why I tattooed that favorite Bible verse on my bicep that says, lazy hands make for poverty, but a diligent hand brings wealth. So I say, hey, you should go read Proverbs 10:4, because what you're trying to do is be lazy.
Uh-oh.
And you're going to be in poverty if you're lazy. And if you want to be diligent and work your butt off, then you'll make some money. That's how, if you're a Christian and you believe that, that's how God rewards you. He rewards your diligence, not your laziness. Just like T.D. Jakes said, you don't believe in God for a car. You can work your butt off, get a job, and pay for your own car. You don't need to be praying that God give you a car. God gave you a brain and 2 legs, so get up off your lazy ass and go do some work.
Oh,
and you can buy your own car.
So step 1, determine, you got to know you got to know the numbers. You got to know your numbers. Step 2, determine the number of hours per week that you're willing to work. And step 3, now here we go. You've got to have great branding. And Nathan, I want to talk to you about this with Complete Carpet. We've worked with you now for how long?
A little over 2 years.
What kind of growth have you had in the past 2 years?
We have over tripled.
Did you say tripled?
Yes, I said triple, as in
Did
3
you say
times.
tripled?
I think it sounded like triple when I said it.
Is that like switching your company into sport mode?
I believe that's like sport mode and taking both the buttons off.
So when we started working with you, we've gone through all these steps, but one is branding. We got to make sure your website looks great. What would you say to somebody out there who has a nasty website, but their husband built it? It's a nasty website, but their cousin built it. It's a bad looking thing, but they made it themselves, and therefore they're sort of unwilling to change it. I talked to a guy just the other day. Sad story, Steve. You would like this story. He's a guy who's not making any money, and I pointed out to him on our 13-point assessment. I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, if Tesla is like a 10, like a beautiful website, and a 1 is like a 0, bad, how highly would you rank your website? And Steve, he tells me 10. And I'm looking at it, and it is nasty. And I said, can I be candid with you? He goes, well, why would I want to do a coaching call with you if I don't want you to be candid? And I said, okay, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, your site's a 1, but you think it's a 10. He said, are you kidding me? Do you realize how many hours I've spent on this thing?
That's why it's a 10, because he did it.
So I want everybody out there to ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how highly would you rank your website? And what would you say, Nathan, for somebody out there who is a entrepreneur, they have a nasty-looking website, but they don't want to change it because their wife, their husband, their cousin, their neighbor, somebody built it?
Unfortunately, you're going to stay poor. And if what you are doing would get you where you want to go, you'd already be there. That's why you need help.
It's a tough little awkward moment there for somebody out there. So let's talk about the branding for a second. Elon Musk says that branding is just perception. Stevie says branding is just perception. Let's think about this for a second. It's just perception. He says brand is just a perception, and perception will match reality over time. Sometimes it will be ahead, other times it will be behind. But brand is simply a collective impression some have about a product. Steve, what happens if you have nasty branding and you are unable to notice that it's nasty because your wife built it, your husband built it, your cousin built it? What's going to happen to your company?
It's going to suck.
Well, it may.
You're probably going to have trouble selling things, Probably going to be difficult for you.
I let the awkward pause occur because there's somebody out there that needs to hear this. Breck,
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a time in your life where your website was not great.
It was terrible.
And no one could find it.
Before I met you guys, my website, my web presence as a whole was just terrible. I mean, there's not.
Now, what if it looks good, but it's not findable by the search engines? What if it looks great, but it's not
good, and you couldn't find it? I mean, if you typed the exact web address in, you probably wouldn't find it.
This is really encouraging advice, though, because the reality is if you have a website that's not doing that well, that means if you change it, you can start doing well.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
This can really bring you up. Like if it was already perfect and you're not doing good, well, then what can you change? But if it can be improved, and then you can improve it and come better, oh my goodness, then the sky's the limit at that point.
I see people, and Steve, you've seen these people because you've actually referred some of these people to us. This is what happens is, Steve, you'll pull up in the parking lot driving a Lamborghini.
Yes.
Or your wife's Lexus SUV.
In sport mode.
Or in sport mode. Or this just in. He's in sport mode. He's locked in.
Wait.
You always drive the Lambo.
How does a
in sport mode.
Lexus in sport mode compare to a Lamborghini?
Oh, wow. Yeah, true. Tell us this.
Is that like a Lamborghini running on gravel and diesel?
It doesn't work. It doesn't compare in any
Does
way.
the Lamborghini have a Chevelle mode?
No.
So
They're nothing alike.
people will see you pull up in the Lexus SUV or your Mercedes or your Bentley or a Lamborghini. They'll see one of your cars that you have, or they'll come to your nice house, and either way, they'll show up and they'll go, Steve, how are you growing your business? And you go, well, I've been working with a coach for about 5 years. 5 years now.
Yep.
And Clay and I meet every week, and he's been taking me down this proven path. And he and Dr. Zellner have built 16 multi-million-dollar companies between the two of them in all different industries. And if you follow the proven path too, you too will have success. And they go, well, give me his number. And then they reach out to me. And then we're on the phone. And I say, hey, your website currently is ranking low in the search engine results because it looks good, right? But it's not built on WordPress and it's not canonically compliant.
Yep.
What percentage of the time does somebody with a good-looking website that doesn't rank high because it's not canonically compliant argue with you or me about the way search engines work?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Every
lot
time.
of them do. Every time. They want to argue about. I think that's like.
Which is why I only want 160 clients, by the way. Some of y'all are making me crazy, Steve.
That's like I don't know if it's a skill or if it's learned or what, but it's like if. I don't have an ego about crap I don't know about, but for some reason, some people do. They get a big ego about crap they don't know about just because, I don't know, they feel like they worked hard. I don't understand it.
And then they read like one half of one chapter of one blog about search engines, and now they're an expert, and they say, Steve, well, apparently Google just did a update, and it doesn't work that way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Every time. Breck, you've heard this, I'm sure.
Well, sure. But one of the things I was going to say is, when you talk about brand and the overall impression and how that all ties together as your perception of a business, as a company, of an individual, it's about congruence. And so, people don't like incongruence. And so one of the things I love about you, Clay, is when I go to the Thrive Time office or I go to the studio, there's a similar aesthetic. There's the same feeling. There's the same. You're not different when you're on the radio. You're not different when you're in person or at the conferences, workshops.
Yeah.
You're the same person. You're unapologetic for who you are, and there's that same congruent thread throughout all of it. And I think that's one of the things that drives people, customers in particular, crazy is when they have a certain impression and then a certain expectation, and you don't you don't meet that each and every time. It's inconsistent, and they start to see hypocrisy within the company or the service or the product. One time you get a great product, the next time you don't. That's the kind of thing that doesn't help your business. It doesn't drive it forward. It only hinders it.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to rank your website right now, your branding, anything people can see, anything people can see or touch about your company, your business card, your website, your print pieces, your marketing commercials. Rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. And if you need to fix them, do it. But again, step 1, know your numbers. Step 2, know the number of hours you're willing to work per week and when you're willing to work those. 3, improve that branding. Step 4, Nathan, I want you to talk about this. You've got to have a 3-legged marketing stool. There's got to be some way that you market to people that is somewhat turnkey, some way that doesn't involve you personally networking to bring every single deal in the net. There's got to be a 3-legged marketing stool. Nathan, why do you have to have a turnkey marketing system that doesn't involve you and your incredible wife, Tony, personally going person to person, house to house, passing out business cards?
Well, 1, because there's only 2 of us. And if I want to do more than 2 jobs a day, then I'm going to have other ways of bringing stuff in. I tried some of the networking groups where you have to meet up every 3rd Thursday or every 2nd Thursday at 5 a.m. or 7 p.m. for lunch. And those are just 5 people. I can only connect to those 5 or 10 people. Whereas online, if you get on and put a ad on front, I think last week we had 900 impressions on how can I touch 900 people in a week? Easy. I put an ad on Google, and I can come up at the top area or in the maps, and now I am in front of thousands of people on a weekly basis instead of a couple hundred that I can touch.
What are your marketing moves that you do over there at Complete Carpet? Like, what are the actual moves that we do now with you on a weekly basis to get customers?
Absolutely. We do Google AdWords, and that way you can get something that's dynamic. They're searching directly, and we can be in front of people that want us right now. We also connect with customers. We want reviews, because just having an ad that's only going after search, but if somebody's just wanting to find you, they see you, they want to know how reputable you are, having a good, I think we're a 470 plus 5-star Google
469.
reviews. 469.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Oh, yeah.
I have 610 reviews, and you have 469. So does that mean I'm like 141 times better than you?
Don't know the math exactly on
Clay,
that.
I don't know how Google looks at it. I'm just trying to figure out, like, I kind of want to call out Nathan at this point and say, dude, I think you should try to pass me.
This sport mode has really affected your attitude.
I just think you should try to pass me.
So I'm going to have to stop working every 3rd Thursday and start
No,
getting more reviews
you only
than
have 469. I have 610. I'm just saying I'm kind of kicking your butt. So
I want to make sure that everybody out there understands this idea. You have to have a 3-legged marketing stool that works. It's got to be a turnkey system. So let's break down the moves. For Complete Carpet, every single week you have to do the following 4 things. Every week, get video reviews. Every week, get video. If you want to dominate on Google, VISM is how you do it. Somebody should write this down. VISM, where there is no vism, your digital dominance will perish. Okay, VISM. V, get a video review. I, add optimized images. S, add original search engine content. And M, get more freaking reviews. V, get video reviews. I, optimize those images. M, VISS, add search engine content. M, get more reviews. Again, somebody should write this down. V, get video reviews. I, get images optimized. S, add search engine content. M, get more reviews. Why do you have to do it every week?
You know, 2 of those things aren't mutually exclusive, because I get asked this all the time, like, how do you get a video review from somebody? And you're standing there with a customer. 1, do a good job. I mean, don't ask people for reviews if you haven't done an amazing, awesome job. But
hey, I know I sucked, but do you want to hop on video real quick?
Hey, real quick, let me say this. This happened happens a lot, but let me give you an example. Maybe 2 months ago, I'm in a meeting with a guy, and his company sucks. He wanted to become a client, and it sucks. I mean, Breck, I'm serious. This company sucks.
I think you have a sound effect for that.
Well, let me say this. I went online, and I was looking him up, and all of his reviews are bad. I mean, bad. And I said, hey, we got to fix your online reputation. And so please explain to me the origin of these complaints. I just want to know. Because people are writing all over Google. They're like, I paid dude $25,000 to remodel my house. And he never finished, and he's never called me back, and he still has my $25,000 if you know his whereabouts, please have him. And it's like on House, on Home Advisor, anywhere that you can leave a review, somebody is leaving a review. And Steve, I'm sure you've seen this kind of thing.
They're
and they are
passionate.
pissed.
Sure.
And he says, I want to find a way to bury those. And I said, is it true? He says, oh, yeah. I want to know what's the best way to get good reviews and to bury the bad ones. I'm being serious,
Start
though.
doing good work.
Have you ever seen this scenario, Dr. Breck?
Put your
What
business
you
in
do,
sport mode.
I want you to, the next time this happens, just
What
for
had
my
happened was I got a bad review.
for my own satisfaction, the next time this happens, because I know it probably happens like once a week or something.
Oh, yeah.
Could you just say, excuse me, can you just put out your hand? And then they put their hand out like this, just slap it. That's what I want you to do. And then video that, and then we can use that forever. This is what you need, sir. Bam. Slap your hand.
Tough love.
Yeah.
But you've got to do this. And people say, well, how do you get a video review? Don't suck. Don't be terrible. I see, this is an example. I used to work with a pastor back in the day. Incredible. He says, Clay, my church isn't growing. I'm like, well, I'm going to walk you through the linear path. But I want you to know, growing a church is not a spiritual thing. Oh, this hurt his head.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what? And I'm like, it's not. But his wife was passionate that he become a client because she knew that they were stuck. So I said, well, what I'm going to do is I want you to rate your preaching. By the way, there's 3 moves to get to grow your church that have to, as it relates to quality. I know somebody out there is a pastor and they need to write this down. 1, your sermon has to be awesome. Excellent. 2, your praise and worship has to be awesome. 3, your youth and kids ministry has to be awesome. Again, the youth ministry and the kids has to be awesome. Mm-hmm. The preaching from the pulpit has to be awesome. And the praise and worship has to be awesome. To grow a church in America today.
Agreed.
And he says, could you come watch me preach? I said, I will do it. I'll watch you online. I'll watch him. So I watched him online. And at no point does he have a point. And at no point does he bring passion. I'm being serious. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't at
Bueller.
I was not at the kids service. I didn't watch the kids service.
But you had seen enough.
But I saw the praise and worship, and that was terrible too. And I said,
I saw
want to
the
ask,
kids service. The kids came out crying.
well, I said on a scale of 1 to 10, how highly would you rank your sermon? He goes, what do you think? I'm like, well, I want to know you first. He goes,
Right.
well, I'm led by the Lord. It's a 10. That's what he says.
I mean, that's hard to argue that.
I feel like that
So
might
there you
be-
go. There you go.
It's a different spirit there.
No, but seriously, that's what he says.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, it was like a 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, do you write a sermon? Do you write outlines? He goes, I just do whatever the Lord wants me to do. I'm more in the flow. I said, so you literally do not, because during his sermon, it was abundantly clear that he was making stuff up.
He was just winging it.
Yeah, and he says, I was just in the flow.
Can I go off on something here?
Sure.
This is one of my personal pet peeves, and I know
Sure.
that hopefully I don't offend anybody, but God is there for you not to hide behind. You need to get, like, if you're going to do good work so that people wonder why you're so good, and then they begs the question. But so many, especially in the business industry,
Yes.
don't hide behind a little ichthus on the side of your van, or that Christ is my source, or that some other thing is.
What did you call it? An ichthus?
It's that little fish
Little fish
symbol
symbol?
that has the.
It's called an ichthus.
Yeah, it actually has a title.
Yes, it actually has a title. You do
That's
such
why I
good
love
work.
this. I literally like just learned what an ichthus is, and it's not an igloo. It's an ichthus. Go ahead. Sorry.
But don't hide. Do such good work that it begs the question
There we go.
why you're so good. Don't hide behind and say, hey, I know my work is okay, but God, I do it before God. No, do it so well that people wonder what's behind you.
So the marketing game, we go back to the marketing. I said, hey, listen, Pastor, I can get people in your church by getting you to the top of the Google. If you type in the name of your city and church, I can make you top. I can make your website look great. I can improve the video quality in your sermon. I can do all that. But if people come to your church and don't come back, I can't do anything about that.
There's got to be the content. Yeah.
And then he says, well, I'm not going to sell out and do what these modern pastors are doing. It's about the word.
I don't want to help more people.
I don't want to reach a lot of people.
I'll
Think
show-
about the craziness
I'll
of that
show you.
idea. So again, if you're out there today and you're cleaning carpet or you're growing a church or you're selling mortgages or you're doing chiropractic care, we create a 3-legged marketing stool. And again, for complete carpet, we dominate in Google. Okay, we dominate. We did the VISM. We talked about that every single week. We do that. Then every single week we run AdWords and retargeting ads, and every week we do Facebook ads. And that's how we grow. It's not that difficult, okay? But once you get leads, you've got to be awesome.
Well, and I want to, on the other side of this, for the business owner out there saying, hey, I'm going to start doing this. What will happen when I start doing this? I want to give you an awesome story that will be hopefully an encouragement for you. We started doing this. We've done it for 2 years. And about 3 or 4 months ago, had one of our guys go to a job. And the guy scheduled online because he knew our reputation with the 400 plus reviews and saw the video reviews online.
469.
Yes, I heard that's like 100 more than you have. He shows up there, and the husband had scheduled it, and the wife was there. He wasn't even there. And so my guy goes up there, and the wife comes out and says, hey, do I have to stay? And he's like, well, he gives our thing. I need to have a form of payment. I need a way to lock up your house and call somebody if problem. But no, you don't have to stay. So she tipped him $40. She gave him the keys to the house, and this first-time customer, has not met us before. And she said, I've read your reviews. I saw your video things. I know you're going to take good care of him. I want to go see a movie. And so she left. And he called me up and said, boss, the customer just left me with the keys and a tip before I've even done the work because of all these things we're talking about. She already knew. Now it was up to us to honor that commitment, to show her that we could be as good as she thought we were going to be. But
you guys should have robbed her to show her. You don't give someone your keys.
I've heard that's not a good business move, is
That
robbing
doesn't
your
work
customers.
out well.
No, just say you locked it, but you really stole her TV.
And I want to give you one more thing. On that note right there, tell your employees, never take from the customer because they're leaving a pile of cash right in their living room saying, hey, if you do this work, I'll give you all this money. Don't take extra outside of the stuff they're doing. It's already there. They already called you to do something great for for your business. Take the pile of cash they're already offering. Don't take the pile of cash plus 1%.
Yeah.
If you're out there today and you feel like you are stuck, you can schedule a 13-point assessment with us. Last week we had over 100 people reach out. Julia and Luke, I think, scheduled 4 appointments last week for me. And that means there's like 4% of the people that filled out a form to kind of apply that they set an appointment for me. One person is a good fit. And we have a wonderful listener who is selling her company right now, and another great listener who is selling his company, 2 clients that are selling their companies, which creates 2 openings. But if you're not willing to plow down the proven path, don't reach out to me. Do not call me. If you do not want to go down the proven path, don't call me. Don't reach out to me. If you have an idea and you're not willing to put in the work, don't call me. Don't reach out to me. Don't waste your time. Don't waste my time. And don't create this resentment when you reach out to me and I tell you that your idea is crazy. If you want to start an idea, go to 360 Degrees North. Go to 1 Million Cups. Go to TED Talks. Go somewhere. Go to some entrepreneur incubator. But please do not call me unless you have a real product or a real service that you're selling to real people on the planet Earth that they actually are willing to exchange real money for. Now, speaking of real entrepreneurs that actually solve a problem for real customers on the planet Earth, it is now time to call Randy Atrican, the founder of PMH OKC. He's been a client here for the past 9 months, and his company has grown by over 70%. Think about this. As a result of following the proven path that I have written for Randy Atrican and his company PMH OKC, his company now has done more sales during the first 4 days of January than they did all of last year during the month of January. And now, without any further ado, let's call Randy. Will he pick up? That is the question. Randy Atrican, how are you, my man?
Good, man. Appreciate you having me.
Hey, can you tell the listeners out there what you do for a living? Tell them about the name of your company and where you're based.
Yeah, we're out of Oklahoma City, now Tulsa as well. Our business is called PMH OKC, which stands for Perfect My Home. And we basically do any type of construction outdoors. So a strong emphasis in outdoor living. You walk out your back door, whatever you see, that's kind of what we do.
Okay, we're gonna talk about a lot today. I want to tap into your wisdom about this, but let's do this. I want all the listeners do a Google search right now for PMH OKC. What does PMH stand for?
Perfect My Home.
Okay, so everybody do a search right now for PMH OKC. Do a search. Okay, great. There you're going to see the highest rated outdoor living company in Oklahoma City right now. And you're going to see a ton of video reviews. A ton. I mean, a massive amount of video reviews from real customers. Real customers. I'm going to queue up one of them, Randy. I want to play this for the listeners because I think that somebody out there needs to understand what I'm talking about. Let's do a Google search here for PMH OKC. I'm searching right now. I'm finding the video. Let me just play this audio clip. This is phenomenal. Let me play it for you real quick. Here we go.
What is your name and where are you from?
My name is Terry Tilley, and I am from Texas, but we live here in Guthrie, Oklahoma now.
How did you hear about PMH OKC?
Actually, on Facebook. I was just, I had been doing some Google searches for patio covers and pergolas and such, and then all of a sudden Facebook found out and started posting different things, and so I saw quite a few different companies that offered them, but I saw that you did solid covered pergolas, and I knew I wanted something that was going to give us more shade and more protection from the rain and the elements. And so then I started researching, and you guys had really wonderful reviews.
What was your best experience while working with PMH OKC?
The guys that actually built the pergola, well, even the guys that delivered the materials, they were all so sweet. Very nice, very friendly, you know. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. You know, they were so sweet. So I would have to say just that the crew, they were all very polite. They were on time. They were here when they said they were going to be here, and they got it done really quickly.
What the crap? Randy, you have people that are on time. They're showing up on time to get the pergola installed on time, to get the outdoor kitchen on time, to get the chimney built on time. What the crap? How much did you have to pay that woman to say those words?
$1 million. No. No, I mean, that's what we focus on. And, you know, people seeing a real person say that is priceless, because we get the same thing over and over again. Every time we quote a job, we show them those type of videos, and it just gets us all kinds of jobs.
Can you talk about, as a percentage or in whatever way you want to describe it, how do your sales, we're recording this show right now on January 5th of 2020. This show will come out in March, but can you maybe describe your sales this year and in the first 5 days of January versus all of last January, the sales numbers?
Yeah, our last January was $126,000, and we've already done over $150 in the first 4 days.
What?
Wow.
Repeat that again, please.
We had about 126 last year, all of January, and we're over 150 already in the first 4 days. And a lot of that's from work that we started doing several months ago with reviews and SEO.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And because we're 5 days in right now, I don't know, but I would speculate that we'll probably end up doing 10x growth this month. Do you believe that, or what do you foresee happening for the rest of the month of January?
Oh yeah, I've got 600,000 on my goals for it, because we're about to hit 2 big trade shows too, and that one of them is the biggest one of the year. So I'm expecting huge things, and we've got so many things in the pipeline. It's crazy. We've got probably $250,000 that's about to close already.
Okay, so again,
we haven't even gotten today started.
So I want to make sure the listeners are getting this idea here. We're talking about how to 10x your growth and how to turn your accounts receivable into bank deposits that are believable. So, Randy, in your industry, it can be a dangerous dance with the devil, and it's called accounts receivable. It's when you go out there and do a great job, and Dr. Breck, I'm sure you deal with this too. It's where you do a great job as a chiropractor, a great job as an outdoor living company, and then people don't pay you. Has that ever happened to you, Randy?
Yeah, it has. About 3 weeks ago, we were owed about $200,000, and it's just this time of year, people slow pay, and they give you all the excuses in the book, and it just comes down to really getting in their face and getting it. And we've, with me and you and our coaching, we've got that down to 40,000, but we just had to get really aggressive.
So let's talk about this in our twisted world that we live in. Randy, what are some of the excuses that you've heard from people? And I want to deal with this because if you're not careful, you'll feel bad as an entrepreneur collecting money that you're owed. Somehow customers can flip it where you feel bad for collecting money that's owed to you. What kind of excuses have you heard? I just want to write these down.
Most of them are I just forgot. Like probably the main excuse I get is people saying, "Oh, well, I just missed you. I got home and I forgot to write your check." Or another one that we've gotten was that they haven't gotten paid yet. Well, it's like, that's not really my problem. Some of these bills are 3-4 weeks overdue, and I shook hands with you, not with your builder. So
there we go.
Most of it's just stupid petty excuses like I forgot.
I'm going to read off some excuses that I have here in front of me, and I would like for you to tell me if you've ever heard this before, Randy. Okay, so I'm gonna write off the excuses that I've heard before. Okay, one is, can you mail me an invoice? Could you send that invoice to me? Have you ever heard that one?
Yep.
So you've heard that someone says, "Can you send me an invoice?" They know how much is owed. But could you send that to me?
My accounting department needs it.
Have you ever heard this one?
Yeah.
Could you mail it to me again? I must have got lost in the mail. Have you ever heard about that one?
It is in the mail.
Yeah. This week.
Okay, so
He's like,
now,
yesterday.
now, how about this one? This is powerful. My wife is going through an illness right now in her body. It's a bad deal, and could be a tumor, could be a cyst, could be something. I just want some prayer, and I'll pay you. Have you ever heard that one where they flip it, and all of a sudden you're praying for them? Have you heard that one?
Yeah, and they make you feel bad for even asking, and then if you ask again, you feel even worse.
Oh, Breck, have you heard this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Have you heard this one? Well, we have a vacation coming up right now to Disney, and I would hate to let the kids down right now, but I'll get back with you after my trip. Have you heard that one?
Yes.
After I can pay after the trip. Now here's another one. This is a good one, and you hear this in Oklahoma a lot. Well, Randy, now brother, I know as a believer, you know, and I know when we're just coming together and we're just believing for my husband to get a pay raise, for my wife to get a pay raise, for money to come through. Right now, we're just waiting for the money to come. Have you heard that one?
In a version, yeah, a similar version.
What are other excuses you've heard? Because I want to bring these up because there's somebody listening right now who is owed an incredible amount of accounts receivable, and we're trying to help them turn that into bank deposits that are believable. What other excuses have you heard?
Well, a lot of people will just avoid my phone call. But I mean, that's probably the main thing is people just completely avoid your phone call altogether. And then whenever you get a call back, they just like, "Oh, I missed your call," or, I'll send an email to them and it'll, I have a little system that says that they've opened it or not. And just bold-faced lie to you.
I saw somebody at the Christmas party. Pissed me off. I go to the Christmas party, and this person says to me, at my Christmas party, I don't know how they got to the Christmas party. They're not a client anymore. And they said, I have been, as soon as we saw each other, I have been trying to reach you. I love that one.
The entire time that their Christmas party?
This person owes me money. It's in our coaching program, we don't work with you if you owe money, okay? Mm-hmm. So they basically, so shady. They called their credit card company and reversed charges on the last month, after the month. And then I called them on. They go, "Oh, I was running short, but I'm going to put that back." Well, one, that's fraud. When you call your company and say that you didn't authorize those charges. But then they said they've been trying to reach me.
For over a month.
Probably. For over a month. Randy, have you ever heard that? I've been trying to reach you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We get that all the time.
So how did you collect your money this past month? How did you take your accounts receivable from nearly $200,000 down to $40,000? How did you do it? What kind of words did you say? Help somebody out there there's a listener out there right now. You've got a ton of money owed to you, and somehow you feel bad about collecting the money. Help set a listener free, Randy.
We call them like 20 times a day and got basically borderline disrespectful with them. And I mean, we just blew their phone up. And then whenever they did call and give us those excuses, we just basically had to be very frank with them and say, "Hey, this is a past due for 6 weeks. We've got to get a payment. I always just threaten them with a lien on their house, and that usually works."
There it is. Now, what is it? For anybody out there who doesn't know what a lien is, can you kind of explain? I'm not asking for the technical mumbo jumbo, but can you kind of explain, Steve, what a lien is on your house and why that's not a good thing to have one on your house?
Yeah, well, you could have a mortgage lien on your house, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But what he's talking about is they call it a mechanic's lien. And so what happens, a contractor maybe comes and does some work on your house, puts a roof on, does a beautiful pergola like OKC. What is this?
PMH
OKC
Oh, yeah.
does.
Yep.
And then they don't pay. And if the contractor wants to, and you're not, paying him in a timely manner, they can go file a mechanic's lien on the property. And essentially, it locks it up to where you can't really do anything with your property until you pay them. But it's only for a period of time, so it can't be. It's not like on there for life or anything. But
they couldn't sell their house until they get this lien
most
cleared
people
up.
are, most people don't think you're serious, and then if you do that, you can.
Let me give a business owner out there a super tip that really will help to free you up. This is great, but before this happens, do not accept post-dated checks. If they say they'll pay you later for the work you're going to do today, say, that's all right, I will do the work later then. When
there we
you
go.
have the money?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a great tip from Nathan there with Complete Carpet. Dr. Breck, have you ever had people owe you money?
Well, we also use physician's liens. And so, there's oftentimes where patients pay up front or it's an insurance situation. But then with like a personal injury case where we know we're going to do all of the work and we're not going to get paid until the case has closed and then settled, which may take years, we do a physician's lien to make sure that our name gets on that check, because we have had patients who receive the check, cash it, that was meant for their care, and they never paid the bill. And so without that physician's lien, there's really no recourse that we have.
I want to talk about this, Randy, because you do such a great job at this. Again, we talk about this so often on the show. But one, you got to know your numbers. You got to know the number of deals you need to break even, the number of deals you need to achieve your goals. Two, you got to determine the number of hours you're willing to work per week to make that success possible. Three, you got to improve that branding. Four, you've got to have incredible marketing in place that works. And then you've got to have a systemic sales process, and you got to wow your customers. But after you wow the customers, you got to collect that money. You've worked with other contractors, Randy. I'm sure you've met other contractors in your industry.
Yes.
Why is accounts receivable such a big issue in your industry?
Well, there's a lot of people that are in business that shouldn't be in business. And, as you know, in business, cash flow is king. And, a lot of people don't operate the way that we operate, meaning, some of us that do really well. The tornado put a lot of people in business a long time ago. And, most of those people, should never have been in business. And so, yeah, they're good at their trade, but bad at business. And so you get sucked in with their bad bookkeeping. And, I see it all the time. I see people, living beyond their means. And, I was guilty of that in 2003, and in 2008, punched me in the face when the market crashed. But, there's so many people that are driving around in nice cars, but they don't pay their contractors, and you see it, and it just sends mixed messages to people that work for them that, they're driving the Escalade or going to, Disney World or whatever, and, they don't have all their bills paid. And so I think it's just, just bad business owners.
So I want to go down this path, and I'd like for you to mentor our listeners out there, because you're one of the most coachable clients I've ever worked with here. Knowing your numbers. Why do you and your wife put the time and effort into knowing your numbers?
Well, you measure what you treasure, and everything, what gets documented gets improved. And, if you don't know where you were, you don't know where you're going. It's really hard to put a measuring stick on your success. And I'm a huge tracker. Even before I met you, I loved tracking numbers.
Oh, yeah.
But even more since I've met you, just looking at overhead and your budget, setting budgets for each department within your business, it's so crucial, because you can make so many little tweaks and just, make a huge impact by small little 2-millimeter shifts in your business.
I think by default, and maybe you don't agree, Randy, but by default, your payroll, your fixed expenses are going to grow at the same rate of your gross revenue, a.k.a. you're not going to be profitable. Do you agree with that by default that's what happens?
your gross revenue fixed. You said your gross revenue will grow with your payroll.
I mean, do you agree by default that your payroll will grow at a rate that keeps up with your overall gross revenue if you're not careful? I mean, do you agree that by default you're basically your fixed expenses are going to drift upward if you're not intentional?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we had to cut $20,000 a month in overhead just last month because it was getting away from us. Well, we're in a seasonal business, and so in the summer we're doing $400,000 or $500,000 a month, and you get to December and you're $250,000. Statistically the worst month is December. But your overhead's $100,000. That's not good. So you have to set your overhead to one of your worst months of the year, and then you can just rake it in on the good months. But if you like you said, if you're not careful, it gets away from you, and you'll assign someone for every task in your business versus just making several tasks for several jobs for one person to take over, which is kind of what we did. We cleaned house last week and really fixed some of those issues.
Steve, have you ever seen this before, that the fixed expenses will gradually just drift upward, or do you believe that they, by default, you tend to become you tend to drift into becoming more profitable?
No, you definitely don't drift into becoming more profitable. I think I mean, you just as he said, you look up one day and you're like, holy crap, how did we get all this expense? And then you got to go chop it sometimes, and then. Because I think, a nickel turns into 10 cents, and that turns into 25, and the next thing you know, you're spending money that you didn't realize you're spending. Everybody does that. Even just the other day, I told my wife, I said, I think Amazon could literally just charge us, $37 a day, and we wouldn't even know. Like, they could charge it and not even send anything to us, because if you're not watching it or inspecting it, just can kind of get away. And that's if you have a whole bunch of really honest people that work for you. I mean, just imagine if you have somebody who's not honest and they're doing things. I mean, then it can sneak up on you, and next thing you know, you're in a
just this
bad
past
spot.
week, I was working with one of our clients, and he found that $750 was spent by some other company. Somebody else got his credit card, I guess, and was using it for other things on Facebook. I don't know what I don't know what you can buy on Facebook, but other ads or other marketing or something was being done where his card was being used without his permission. Crazy stuff there. Crazy stuff.
Oh, I had a me and my wife met yesterday for our budget meeting, and we noticed our fuel man card was $700 more this month.
Wow.
We look at that stuff every single month, and we just let this guy go last week, but we noticed this, and it was his truck. Well, he was filling up 2 times a day. And one of them was for like $112.
What?
And the truck only holds like $50. So it was like $50 and then $112. He ripped us off like $700 a month. I would not have known that if I had not have been tracking my numbers and looking at all of my overhead.
This is so important. Now, the final 2 teaching moments I want to give the listeners out there. You've got to determine how many hours per week you're willing to work. Randy, what time did you wake up on, let's say, Friday?
I wake up at 3 a.m. every day, except for Sunday. I wake up at 5.
Okay. Steve, what time do you wake up most days?
4:20.
That's hilarious.
I just figure that no one that ever smokes pot will wake up at 4:20 a.m.
That's your ultimate joke.
That's
that no one knew
There's
about
only
until right now.
4:20 in the afternoon.
That's
They
hilarious.
never knew there
They'll
was
get
a
up at
4:20
4:20 in the
morning.
afternoon.
That is so
but
funny
not
that you
4:20 a.m.
mock potheads with what time you wake up.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So let's talk about this, Randy. The diligence. Your dad taught you a lot about diligence. We've talked about this in the past. What did your dad teach you about work ethic and diligence?
From a very young age, we threw a paper route, and I would say I was about 8 years old. And, we grew up kind of poor, not like poor, but, we were paycheck to paycheck. And, so my dad started a paper route when I was young, and I went with him every single day. And when I say every single day, it was like Christmas. I mean, any day of the year we were out throwing a paper out. And so I would work for a Coke and a candy bar for about 5 years. That was my payment, a Coke and a candy bar. And then, after school, he had a masonry business. He would, then I felt like he was dragging me out there, but I didn't realize what he was teaching me. He was teaching me hard work. And I mean, he would push me. He would push me in the back to walk faster if I walked slow. I mean, that's the kind of the upbringing I brought. And now, it's easy to look at that and be like, oh, I had a rough childhood, but I don't really think that now. I mean, I think that my dad was training me for a career like what I have right now. And I would say that probably my biggest strength is my work ethic nowadays.
What time did you and your dad wake up to throw those papers?
It was about 3 a.m. It was pretty close to that. I mean, I've always kind of been a morning person, and then the fire department really retrained my mind when I was doing that. So we had a really weird work schedule, so we was up all times of the night. So that kind of plays in the factor as well.
You were a firefighter?
Yes, for Edmond for several years, and I tore my Achilles after that.
How long were you a firefighter?
About 5 years.
So let's make sure we get this. I want to make sure we're getting these data points here, these ideas. 1, your dad woke you up at 3 a.m. every morning for a long, long time. 2, you have done more sales in the first 5 days of this month than the first 4 days of this month than all of last January. So in all of last January, you did less sales than you've done in the first 4 days of this January. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and so let's if you listen to this show a lot, and I know you do, and you're going, I'm implementing the marketing, I'm doing that, I'm doing the branding, I'm doing all that, but I suck. Then it's not going to work. So I want to talk about this for a second because we've started working together. What, about 9 months ago, 7 months ago? How long ago did we start working together?
Yeah, it was about April. So 9 months.
9 months ago.
8, 9 months.
9 months ago, we built a little business, baby, in 9 months. But the business has done great. But again, if I'm in a meeting teaching you about getting reviews and you suck, then you won't want to get reviews. But you don't suck, which is why you can get reviews. And as we demonstrated with that earlier audio testimonial, your customers like you. Talk to me about how you get your team to get things done on time and on budget when most contractors can't seem to figure that out. I mean, Steve, before we get Randy's answer, have you ever had a contractor that couldn't get it done on time or on budget?
Never. Are you kidding me? They're trained to not do it on time.
Dr. Breck, that sort of ambidextrous idea of being on time and on budget, I have struggled to ever find contractors that can get it done on time and on budget. I find people that can get it on time, but not on budget, or on budget.
I've not found either to be true. I mean, very rarely do they ever come in on time and never on budget.
Nathan, have you ever seen this here with Complete Carpet? I'm sure you've interacted with other contractors. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever had a hard time with contractors being done on time and on budget?
The number of times that we've had to change a carpet cleaning because the painters are still in the house a week later. I mean, I if I had a penny for every one, that would be
for
it.
every time you had to
right
reschedule.
Yeah.
All right. So, Randy, how do you do it? How do you do the trick of being on time and on budget?
Well, it starts with actually long before you actually get to the job. I mean, every morning we have an 8 a.m. morning huddle, and every single morning we have a printout of every single job, and we're looking at all those jobs, and there's an accountability there with that. So, if there's something that needs to be done, we need to put a name on it. Who's going to own that right now? And we're going to talk about next morning. And it's the carrot and the stick as well. So, I mean, if we put your name on it and you're responsible for that, it doesn't get done, you're either getting written up or you're going to have, some consequences for that, sometimes even monetarily. So, it starts with that. And then just a really good CRM program, staying on top of schedules and times and, texting people ahead of time. We have a system of when we update customers. So, we like to push updates rather than them pull it from us. I think the home builder, what was his name? The guy that you coach up there.
Shaw Holmes.
Yeah, Shaw Holmes. So he said something pretty similar to that too. And I actually learned a little bit from him whenever he was talking at the conference several months ago. And we started doing that. We started updating customers every Tuesday and Thursday, and that just completely changed a lot of things for us in a good way. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just it's more the carrot and the stick too. But you got to have good people. If your people are not on board with with your system and process, then they're not going to do it. Because if you just let people run wild, I mean, they're just going to do whatever they want. And that's the way we ran our business for the good part of 13 years. We had no system at all, and no accountability. And when you rebrand your business to scale, to put your systems on paper, you have a little bit of a learning curve and a little bit of growing pains, but you just have to build that system for your team.
I have a Bible verse I want to read to the folks out there listening. This is Proverbs 29:19, one that I have never read on this show so far because I'm maybe ignorant of much of Proverbs. I've read Proverbs multiple times, but every time I go through it, I go, oh, wow, that's good. This should be in the Bible. And then I go, it is in the Bible. Oh, wow, I should read this more. Proverbs 29:19 reads, servants cannot be corrected by mere words, though they understand. They will not respond. Again, Proverbs 29:19. Let me read the original version again. Servants cannot be corrected by mere words, though they understand. They will not respond. Let me try again. Let me do the new Steve. Let me do that. This is the new employer's version of Proverbs. Okay.
Okay.
Employees cannot be corrected by mere words, though they understand. They will not respond. Randy, if you don't have a carrot and a stick, if you don't have something bad that happens when somebody doesn't get their crap done, why won't they improve?
Well, because they don't care about your business like the way you care about your business, and most people are there just for a paycheck, and that's the truth, and so they're just not gonna. Maybe they don't even know that they're doing something wrong. A lot of people, I think, walk around thinking that they're doing a good job, but they don't have the same expectations that we have. I mean, I know I have super high expectations, and I'm never content with where we're at. Even as good as we are, there's always things that we're looking to improve. But some people just don't think the way that you think whenever you're running your own business. They just look at it as a paycheck.
Steve, Proverbs 13:24. I'm not going to ask you to memorize the verses. I'm just firing them out at you here. I'm going to read this to you, and I'd like for you to get your take on this. It says, Proverbs 13:24. Whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them.
Yeah.
Let me translate that to business owners. Whoever hates their employees won't correct them.
Correct.
Steve, talk about this. There's so many people who say, I don't believe in negative reinforcement. I just want to do positive reinforcement. I have a carrot rich environment with no discipline. Steve, why will that destroy your company?
Well, I mean, you're doing them a disservice because just as Randy just said, people are walking around thinking they're doing a good job.
Yep.
And then one day you blow the hammer down on them and fire them, and they're just like out of left field surprised because they thought they were doing a good job, and then they hate you because you fired them. So they're going to hate you anyway. So they might as well hate you while you are hard on them and make them get better. I just got a text from a guy that worked for us for a little while, and this is very common because this always happens. It always happens like 6 months, a year, 3 months, sometime after they leave, after I'm like terrible to them and they think I'm a terrible boss, is they'll text and say, that was the best place I ever worked, and I wish I could have got my act together, and thank you so much for investing time in me. And I feel like if you're not doing that, then you're just weak, and you're not doing yourself a favor, and you're not doing your team a favor. If you can just sit there and give them carrots all day, and you think it's blue skies and rainbows and unicorns and everything's like wonderful, when it's not. You got to tell people when they're doing wrong, give them an opportunity to correct, and then if they're not changing what they're doing, then you can kick them down the road or do whatever. But you've got to give people an opportunity to respond to that coaching and to get better. But if you don't tell them, you're doing a disservice.
Let's think about this here. Randy with PMH OKC is doing so many things so well. Step 1, you got to know your numbers. Step 2, determine the number of hours per week you're willing to work. Step 3, improve that branding. Make sure your branding looks great. Go to pmhokc.com and see great before and after photos, great examples of outdoor living. Randy, what kind of images can we find up on pmhokc.com right now?
Fireplaces, outdoor kitchens, pergolas, pavilions, pools, retaining walls, privacy walls, fire pits. Really anything outdoors. We take professional photos on most of our projects, so Photos say 1,000 words, and that's why we put a lot of effort into them.
Fire pits, TV cabinets,
Oh man.
privacy walls, decks. They've got like a million.
And by the way,
photos.
and Randy, you ship those outdoor TV cabinets, the cedar cabinets, anywhere in the U.S., right?
Anywhere in the U.S.
And there's a beautiful picture of him and his family too.
Oh, no. Well,
Oh, that's
a lot.
really nice.
You've installed Lucky Orange on your website. You can tell where people are clicking on the website, and everybody clicks right there on Randy's face.
Sorry, there's an extra 15 clicks just now.
All right. So step number 1, know your numbers. Step 2, determine the number of hours per week you're willing to work. Step 3, improve that branding. Make it look world-class and not like an ass. Step 4, create the 3-legged marketing stool, or you're a fool. Create a turnkey marketing system that works. Step 5, you have to create a systemic sales process. Randy, you have great scripting. You're installing call recording there. Can you talk about what's going to happen if you delegate your sales to a member of your team and you don't know what they're saying and there is no script in place? What will happen?
Well, number one, you'll notice that your sales will continue to drop. And, whenever we were, I was doing my own sales for a long time, and I was the only one. So that, at that point, you just have to be self-aware of your own abilities. But when you have a team underneath you, you don't know, this person comes and interviews and they look great. They're the polished penny. And you're like, oh, I got it. But then they don't sell. I've seen it hundreds of times. I mean, we've went through tons of salesmen. And, the ones that are, coming in and saying that they're going to close all these jobs, they never do. And you wonder why. Well, then, you go figure out why, and they're on their phone. They're looking at their Apple Watch. They're not following a script. They're, cutting the customer off. So, a sales script is so important. Even if you're doing face-to-face sales, you still have a script. That's the thing is, you follow a system. And, we have that system. We definitely have a system over the phone, and we do listen to calls, and we found out a lot of things that people were doing. A lot of it was just simple stuff, just like talking over the customer or not being friendly or, eating food whenever they're talking on the phone. I've seen that tons of times.
Gross.
It just bothers me. But, you will never be surprised on what you will find whenever you track what your team is doing, because a lot of times you don't know it, but, your wallet will know it eventually because your sales will drop.
Hey, jumping back to your Proverbs verse, the verse before it, 29:18, says, where there is no vision, people cast off restraint. And honestly, in this case, giving people a path will help them to stay restrained. Giving them a way to stay on, which is what Randy's talking about, is giving them that guidance, say, here's how we're going to do our business, and they can stay in that path. Otherwise, they'll be checking their phone, they're doing other stuff.
This is the power of coaching, in my opinion, from my experience, is that when now you know the proven path. It's up to you to go down the path, but now at least you say, I want to go up to the mountain. I want to go to the mountaintop of success. Very few have gone up there. What's the path? And you have somebody who's gone up the path, who's made a path for you, and that's why our coaching program works. I want to talk about this next move, step 6. You got to install a human resources and recruitment system, and I want to get everybody's take on this. What would happen, Randy, if you were not doing that group interview right now?
I would be losing a lot of my time like I was before I was doing it. So, we're constantly hiring because we're growing.
Yep.
And so I would set so many appointments, and I would say 1 out of every 5 would show up.
True.
So I'm basically designating 30 minutes out of my entire week for the group interview.
So good.
And even that is a system, because we have everything systemized where if I happen to not even be there, I could have my team do it. But the main benefit was just the vetting process through a system, and then saving the time for the appointments that you were going to have during the week.
Steve, you used to read resumes. You used to do one-on-one interviews. You used to lose hours and hours a week scheduling one-on-one interviews with people that didn't show up. From your estimation, how many hours per week has the group interview process saved you?
Well, the thing that I did before is I would only interview at certain times. So that saved me, a lot of time, because, if you end up hiring a person a month or every couple months, you spend I think any business owner's done this. You have an interview because you're hiring a receptionist. So you sit in your conference room for 9 hours and, 60% of the people don't even show up and 40% of the ones that did were late or they're weirdos or whatever. So
right.
It's just, for me, and I tell people this about the group interview process, just gives us peace of mind. I just know that if this person who's in our call center who sucks or is great and then suddenly sucks, I have multiple people that are available in 2 days that are going to be coming to the group interview, and then I don't have to worry about it. And then I can take 1 hour of my time and spend it, getting rid of the jackassery because, half the people that say they're going to be there, or probably a larger percentage than half, don't even show up. And then there's a certain percentage of them that show up late. And then there's some that show late. What's that?
What do you do to the late people?
I tell them I used to just tell them to kick rocks, come back next week and figure it out. But I don't know. I just let them come in and sit down, and then I just don't hire them because, why would I? You can't even. I'm getting your best right now. You want a job, so I'm getting your best. And if your best is 10 minutes late, then there's too many people out there that can at least get there on time that I can hire, and I don't need to immediately start having attendance issues with somebody before they even start. So,
Amen.
Breck, what would happen if you stopped group interviewing consistently?
Well, yeah, the last time that we did a ad campaign for a particular position, there were 250 applicants.
Dude, that'd be 250 hours.
Yeah, if I'm going to try to interview those people, which was the old system that we did, even if we read through all the resumes, the hours of slaving over that, which, again, we've talked about is, mostly fiction.
Right.
80% of people are
According
lying.
to Inc. magazine, 85% of people lie on resumes, yes.
Yeah, so, even the waste of time reading the resumes and then narrowing that down to, say, even a fourth of them, we're still wasting a ton of time trying to find one position out of this haystack. Whereas, we've implemented the group interviews. We got 250 invitations for the group interview sent out. From the respondents and those who showed up on time, those who were prepared, we got it narrowed down to a very short list. And then the last position I actually had to fill, it didn't come from an immediate interview. It was from someone from a previous group interview, and they were just on my short list. So I was ready to, I knew I liked them. We just didn't have a position at the time. I was ready to hire them on the spot.
We had a lady at the conference a few months ago who wanted to debate with me during lunch. She was saying, well, I just think it's unethical to not read all the resumes. And I go, so you actually read all the resumes per week, 50 of them? And she says, well, I skim them.
Well, that's unethical to skim.
What in the world? Let's just...
It's also unethical to lie on your resume.
Right.
The restraint that you show sometimes is amazing to me because that's why I would be in jail. I would just slap literally the crap out of some of the people.
That's why we only take on 160 people. I'm telling you what, I heard T.D. Jakes one time talk about why he doesn't do one-on-one marriage counseling. He says, because if I keep doing one-on-one marriage counseling, I'm going to need marriage counseling. He's like, you guys are making me crazy. There's only so much. I love working with guys like Randy with PMH OKC because he's a diligent doer. The final two steps I want to cover today is the quality control loop. You've got to install the quality control loop. You've got to have a follow-up process to make sure people are happy, which, by the way, is how you get reviews. Randy, there's a lot of contractors who are not you who I've said, hey, what we got to do is get reviews. And they go, oh, I don't want to call my former customers. And I say, well, why? Well, just, some of them aren't that happy. Randy, talk about this. Why do you like calling your previous customers to ask for reviews?
Well, when you do a good job and you have happy customers, it's a lot easier, I will tell you that. But, I think that there's a lot of people that, really have that hesitation. But I think when you get down to doing it, it's not as near as bad as you think it is. A lot of people will brag on your stuff, and we've gotten actually return business from it. They're like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to call you, and we're going to have this, or I'll even ask for referrals while I'm on the phone with them. But I think it's just a fear that most people have that you just have to kind of get past. There's really not a ton I could say other than just do it. You
just got to do it. Now, step 8, Nathan, I want to get your take on this, and Breck, I want to get yours as well. Steve, I do not want to get your take on this. No, I'm just kidding. But I want to get your guys' your take on this, and I want to get Randy's take on this. Pricing yourself for profitability. I have found that the most diligent clients I've ever worked with all, at some level, have a problem with pricing themselves high enough to be successful. Meaning the kind of person who's usually very diligent, committed, honest, and focused, that person usually tends to undercharge for their services. Usually. And I find usually the guy who sucks, the guy who's looking for luck, the guy who's hoping and wishing and praying for success, the guy who's lazy, loves to overcharge people. I have found this to be normally so what I want you to do is I'm trying to teach diligent people to price properly. The first time that I hire you to clean my carpet, Nathan, what's the special you have at Complete Carpet?
We'll clean all the carpets for only $99.
Even if it's a huge house?
Even if it's a huge house.
You just did that to my house.
$99?
Yep.
Okay. So you do that because you want people to hire you or to use you again. Talk to me. Have you ever had a problem raising your prices high enough to be successful?
That is actually one of the first things we did when we started with the coaching was to say, okay, let's do a pro forma. Let's see how much are you making per job and say, if you scaled this, are you going to grow or are you going to scale loss?
And how much have you grown in the past 2 years?
In the past 2 years, we have actually increased 3 times as much as we did in 2016.
How much of that growth do you attribute to coaching?
100% of it, because I had been in business for 19 years, and if I could have already done it, I would have.
And let me tell you this. Someone says, well, Clay, that's just you're paying him to say that. So, well, let's listen to this. Listen to this. I have right here on my drum.
He's actually paying you
Steve,
to say that.
I have this on my drum. Steve, I'm going to grab this off my drum
Very
here.
true.
I'm going to grab this off my drum. This is a letter that just came in. And I'd like for you to read it. By the way, I have a drum.
Okay.
I have a drum next to my desk here that survived the flood. All right, Steve, ready? Read it. Here we go. Get ready to read it. Read it.
All right. This is from Michael Levine Media.
Yes.
Dear Brother Clay, greetings. Once again, I want to thank you sincerely for the privilege of speaking to your Thrive Time live annual convention in Tulsa. For the second year in a row, I had the extraordinary experience of watching your community expand and grow in a way that is, well, let's just say impressive. You have taught me much in our several years of friendship, Clay, and I truly consider you an American hero for what you're doing in turning the tide away from the entitlement mentality, strangling our rapidly decaying nation. I'm happy to come back to Tulsa at your invitation, but wanted to thank you sincerely for your courtesy and generosity. It is one of the highlights of the year. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Warmly, Michael Levine. And it has his phone number on here. I'm going to write it down.
Now, real quick, I want to
Can
make
I
sure
read it?
I want to make sure the
read it
listeners
on there.
are getting this idea real quick. Michael Levine is the PR consultant of choice for 43 New York Times bestselling authors, 34 Grammy Award winners, and 58 Academy Award winners. All right? He's a New York Times bestselling author, and let me explain to the listeners out there how I met Michael Levine. I read his book, which is over there with the blue cover on the bottom right shelf there.
Mm-hmm.
I read his book, and I called him. I called his company, his LCO.
The Guerrilla PR book?
Yes.
Okay.
And he said, his assistant said he'd be happy to meet you at the such and such hotel for $25,000. You can have him for 3 hours.
Oh, it was cheap then.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, because I needed to know how to get in the media and the news. I needed to learn that skill a decade ago. I did not know how public relations worked, and that was one of the missing chinks in my. It was a gap in my skills.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
Because I've heard this story before. I don't know if you've shared this, but you called him or texted him or something or emailed him.
I called his team, yes.
The day before.
Yes, to confirm.
To confirm. And what did he say?
Well, he let me know that he doesn't respond to text messages because he's dyslexic. So he was irritated, one, that I had reached out to him via text because he's dyslexic, so he couldn't read it. And then the second thing he said that blew my mind is he said, if I said I would be there, I would be there. Essentially, why the F would you want to have to confirm?
Right.
That was one of
And
his
you think,
O's at
and,
the
hey, and
conference.
you think you're being thorough, and you're like, hey, just confirming our appointment. And he's like, F you.
Yeah.
What? Do you think I'm that guy that you have to confirm with? Like, my word's not good? You
And
know?
by the way, the more super successful people I meet, the more I found that to be true. These guys will book an appointment with you a year in advance, and they honor it. But again, I say this: I had to pay him $25,000 to be coached in PR for 3 hours. I've hired BruceClay.com for $8,000 a month for many, many months to learn how search engines work. And they didn't actually code the sites; they didn't build the sites. The guy who wrote Search Engine for Dummies, Bruce Clay, by the way, go to BruceClay.com, and for $8,000 a month, you too can have a good time. So I mean, I'm just telling you, I've paid for coaches. Dr. Breck, talk to me about this pricing thing. Have you ever found yourself underpricing?
Absolutely. I think it goes back to the beginning of the conversation where you were talking about, you've got to know your hours. You've got to know, where your profitability is, the price of your product, the number of hours you're willing to work, in my case, the services that are going to render a certain profitability. If you're not priced right, then all of that changes and shifts. And so you do have to know your numbers. And that was one of the first things that I did with Tim Redmond, my coach, under the Thrive Time show. And that was he challenged me to go out and contact my other competitors in the area and just kind of see where is the marketplace, where are people pricing themselves. And I wanted to be a great value, but I also didn't want to be the cheapest guy on the block. And I was. And so one of the first things we did was we did raise our prices 2 years ago.
How much have you grown since working with coaching?
We've doubled.
Doubled.
And then,
You've
and
doubled.
This last year we're still growing.
And how much of that success do you attribute to being coached on the proven path and then the accountability of doing it?
99% of it. We had a couple of things in play, but no, it's very much the coaching that's allowing it to happen. There is a proven path, and if you walk the path, you're going to get to the promised land.
Let me tell you how much I attribute my search engine knowledge to Bruce Clay. All of it. Yeah. Was it worth $8,000 a month? Yes. Do I pay it now? No. Why? Because I know how to do it. But I paid $8,000 a month. I mean, Steve, I'm paying like $100,000 a year just to be taught how search engines work, and it's worth it.
$96,000, but
it's worth it. $96,000. This just in. Steve,
sorry,
I appreciate you for correcting me on the show. Thank you so much.
My 12 timetables.
No, I appreciate you for correcting me.
Hey, kids don't learn those nowadays.
Steve, I want to get your take on this. Pricing yourself. How often do you see people undercharging for the services that they offer? I always see the diligent people underpricing. How often do you see a hardworking guy underpricing his services?
All the time. I think people just are. I think there's a certain honesty to it, is that they want to take care of someone. I charge people based on, we're highly regulated, so we have to set our margins. I can't just charge an unruly client more money or do anything like that. But you can definitely, you have to kind of find out where that ceiling is on what people are willing to pay, and then kind of stay below that. That's how we set our, for every market, we set what our underwriting and processing fees are. And we found that, kind of the number needs to stay under 1,000. So we're at, $975. But if we could charge $1,400 and that's what the market called for, that's what we do.
And you've grown from a startup. You guys did $251 million of mortgages this past year.
Yep.
At Total Lending Concepts. How much of your growth do you attribute to the mentorship you've received from either Dr. Green or myself?
I say all of it, just as you say with Bruce Clay, because I think I'm a pretty self-motivated and driven guy, that I work hard, I get up early, and I do all that stuff. But knowing what to do
so big
is a bigger piece of it, is knowing what to focus on. When we started 3 years ago on the Dream 100 and pursuing Shaw Homes, which has been a big part of our growth that'll go into 2020. I wouldn't have done that without a coach.
And somebody out there saying, I don't know what the Dream 100 is. Well, just search Thrive Time Show Dream 100, and we have multiple shows on it. Randy, I want to end the show here. I want to ask your take on this. Pricing for profitability. Have you ever early on struggled to price high enough or to put your prices in a good spot? And have you ever struggled with having too low of margins?
Yeah, when I first started, I kind of went the Sam Walton method, and I said I was going to underbid everybody, and that's how I was going to get all my work. And then, you quickly realize that method is not a method for sustainable growth. And then, but that's when branding really takes over.
Yep.
Because when you brand yourself over a long period of time, just like that Google review, I got that job because of branding with Google reviews. My price, she even told me my price was higher than other people. So, you have to shop your competitors. You need to know what your other competitors are charging.
Yep.
So we do that. We do that every single week.
So good.
We're calling it, some business asking that.
Yep.
But, you also just have to track it, because, before I started tracking profit, my profit was a lot lower than I actually thought it was. You felt like there was just a hole in the business.
Yep.
But it really just came down that you weren't charging enough.
If you're if somebody is out there and they're wanting to know your numbers there, Randy, as a percentage, how much have you grown in the last 9 months? Do you know a percentage or an approximate kind of figure in your mind of how much you've grown in the past 9 months?
70%.
70%.
Yep.
And
70%. We've grown 70%.
Steve, you have been a client for 5 years.
Yeah.
Nathan, you've been a client now for how long?
2 years, yes.
2 years. And Breck, you've been worked with Tim almost about 3 years, probably.
No, 2 years.
2 years. Okay,
Yep.
2 years. And I would just encourage you out there, if you are stuck and you don't know what to do, I'm going to give you three. I'll give you 5 action steps you can take today. 1, you can implement everything you've heard on today's show. All right. 2, you could book a ticket to a conference. You could book a ticket right now. Go to thrivetimeshow.com. Book your tickets to the highest rated and most reviewed business workshops.
Do that. It will change your life.
3, you could reach out to and apply for one-on-one coaching. See if that's a move. 4, we have the online school available for $19 a month. You can learn all this via video. There's so many options you can take. Or move 5. This is the move I'm probably the most passionate about. You can go to PMH OKC right now, and you could buy yourself a cedar TV, outdoor TV enclosure, and you could turn on that TV and watch other people be successful.
Oh, yeah.
And watch their dreams happen.
Going to a lot of school, I like the multiple choice options.
Yes.
But I really like that all of the above minus the cedar cabinet. So I think you should do all of the first 4.
I still think you should get a cedar cabinet and watch other people's dreams. No, I mean, I'm serious though.
Well,
we want people to buy a cedar cabinet, and they're cool to
Absolutely.
have. And we're not. We say you should go to PMH OKC and buy this because this is a great way to relax with your family and watch a football game.
No. To watch
Once
The
you're
Voice.
when you're enjoying your
No, you have
success.
to watch The Voice.
I'm going to change it. If you do the first 4 options, other people can buy a cedar cabinet to watch your life.
There you go.
Or you could go to Complete Carpet right now as move number 6 and pay to have them travel to wherever you're. We have a lot of listeners in Australia, a lot of listeners in Canada. What's the travel fee for you to come up to Canada and clean a carpet?
Oh, see, that is such a special process that they're going to have to we can't just blast that out there because otherwise everyone would want it. So
Call for a quote.
call for a quote.
Breck, if one of our listeners lives in a different state and they want an adjustment, what do you charge for that?
Again, you're going to have to call for a quote because I've got to find out the licensure in that state. But there are some new laws with like sports teams.
Yeah.
So, if we're affiliated with your sports team,
don't
then maybe
do-
we can do that
Oh.
crossing state lines.
Oh.
But otherwise, each state has its own licensure. So we have to kind of work that out.
Randy, what is your final? What kind of encouragement would you have for the listeners out there who have been stuck for 12 years as a chiropractor, or 15 years as a carpet guy, or years as a mortgage person? What advice would you have?
Well, I think just the main things that, we've implemented, the group interview, you've got to get started doing that. You've got to start doing Google reviews. You've got to start tracking your numbers. And, like you said, you measure what you treasure. And if you don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going. And then I would reach out for coaching. I mean, it doesn't matter who you use. Every business needs a coach. I recommend Clay, but those things have really changed our business. It's there's accountability there with that coaching, and that's why we've hit 70% growth.
Hey, Randy, can I ask you a question? When people have to build a pergola or a pool or cedar, any of that stuff that you're doing in their backyard or construction on their house, or it looks like you guys do a bunch of stuff. Do people ever have to get a loan to pay for that? Do they have to get cash out of their equity of their house, or they have to borrow money?
I hear some networking occurring here.
To do that?
Yeah, I'd say about half of them.
Well, there's a company called Total Lending Concept, so they're actually the highest and most reviewed lender in the state.
Isn't that a company that you're in charge of or involved with?
Kind of. I found them on Google. There's
Shameless
610 reviews. If you ever have that, I hear that they work 24/7 too. So maybe you're off on Sundays,
Oh,
but
this is good.
if you needed a quote or
This
maybe
is
someone
what
needed
it's like to be in a
refinance.
room with entrepreneurs.
Or if your guys
I like
happen to
that.
track in some mud, then we've got,
I'll tell you,
carpet
I'll let
cleaning
you guys.
ready.
You guys can talk offline, but seriously, you guys should be referring each other because
Absolutely.
Randy's expanding to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Woo!
And Steve, you do a lot of loans in Tulsa and Oklahoma City, and so there's a little connection for you.
I've heard contractors are more
Yeah,
on
send me-
time with a good adjustment.
Absolutely.
Steve, I'll give you Randy's number when we
Give
get
me
off
the
the
number
air.
quick.
I'll
Yeah.
do it. I'll do it. And with that, we like to end each and every show with a boom. Steve, are you prepared to end with a boom?
Yes.
Remember, these mics are hot,
They're
so
hot.
be careful. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom!
Boom.
All right, let's just say that you're out there listening today and you have a website for your business. The question I would have for you is, are you getting the most number of leads possible? Are you ranking high? Wow.
Touching the canvas.
Can't feel my face. Or are you ranking
Low.
in the Google search engine results? Again, I ask, are you ranking high? Or are you ranking low on the Google search engine search results? Take a moment today and do a Google search for the keywords that you want to come up top for and see where you are ranking. We have Josh Spurl, a CPA from Canada, and we have Dr. Timothy Johnson here from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Josh Spurl, how in the heck are you?
Doing pretty good, Clay. Yourself?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well here. We're not broadcasting from the Man Cave studios as normal, so we got a little bit of background noise there to contend with, but we're here, and I wanted to see if you could share with the Thrive Nation approximately how long you and I have been working together and how that's impacted the number of inbound leads that you're generating as a result of your Google search engine ranking and internet marketing.
Well, we've been working together, Clay, now for almost a year. It was about a year ago I came out to my first conference, and then we started with the coaching program shortly after that. And, our Google leads have gone from, something that we would generate, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 leads a year to, we're talking about 3 to 9 leads every single week.
And now we have Dr. Timothy Johnson in the box from Alabama, Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, so I'm at Southern Eye Consultants. It's in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We heard about you on the podcast, and I had a lot of trepidation at first about getting involved, just making sure it was legit. But all my expectations have been exceeded.
What concerns did you have about our legitness or lack thereof?
I was just concerned about back-end upselling, what I was getting into.
That's what I found. My entire career,
Yeah.
I had been. Had you guys been to, Dr. Tim? Had you been to other workshops or had other industry coaching before? Because I had hired a lot of them, frankly, and I just found I spent. I would be lying if I said hundreds of thousands. It's been more than that.
Oh, we hired somebody to do our website right before we found you.
Yeah,
and it was 3 or 4 months of your coaching service, and we still haven't launched that website yet.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So if somebody out there's thinking about filling out the form, if someone's thinking about emailing us to info@thrivetimeshow.com, that's info@thrivetimeshow.com, and they have a little bit of hesitation, just a little bit, I don't know, just a little bit, what advice would you have for them, Dr. Tim?
First of all, come to one of the conferences. You'll see that he may dress like Bill Belichick, but my wife's a Pats fan, so that was a real selling point.
Nice.
She thought you were a hobo, but I said, no, he's just Bill Belichick. She goes, okay, you can go.
Nice.
But it's also month to month, so try it, and if you don't like it, cancel.
That deserves a mega point. So again, where has your sales gone up? Have you increased your sales? I mean, where's your financial? I'm not asking for the hard number here, but as a percentage, how much are you up since you started with the program? 4 months ago versus now?
Our sales have gone up 20%. We're looking to scale Southern Eye Consultants, and just the number of patients who come in because they found us on Google has gone up a lot. I text you once a week.
Yeah,
you paid for yourself just in somebody walking in. So.
Oh, Billy.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Again, if you're out there today and you feel stuck, just email us to info@thrivetimeshow.com. Info@thrivetimeshow.com. Let us begin to do a deep dive analysis on your website. We'll tell you what's wrong with it. We're going to do a 37-point audit of your website. Our member of our team will call you. They'll go over it with you. They'll break it down. You'll understand what you need to do to improve. I'll give you the final words here, guys. So I'll start with you, Captain Spurl, Josh Spurl, CPA. As Captain Canada and as a man who's been to 2 workshops now, we got an audience, picture 500,000 people listening here. What is the advice that you would tell them?
I think they got to come out to a workshop. You know, it's the best one that I've ever seen. You know, I find that most of the workshops I've been to, you're sitting around all day for one good idea, and you're getting a good idea every single hour at these workshops.
Dr. Tim, what is the word of encouragement, maybe discouragement, maybe the motivation, maybe the verbal tasering? What advice would you give for the listeners out there today?
I'd say the worst idea you can do is not starting now. Just call and start now, and you'll be better off for it.
You heard them right there. Thrive Nation, go to info@thrivetimeshow.com. Email us to info@thrivetimeshow.com. Allow us to do a free 37-point analysis of your website. We'll tell you what's wrong. We'll tell you how to fix it. If you're not ranking high enough in those Google search engine results, it will literally cost your company millions and millions and millions of dollars. But don't take my word for it. Go to thrivetimeshow.com and click on the testimonials button. And as of the time of this recording, we have over 1,000 video reviews from my clients I've had from 2008 up until now, from conference attendees. You're just an email away from becoming a game-changing success story. Email us today at info@thrivetimeshow.com. And we like to end every show and every shameless testimonial session with a boom. And so now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom.